How to take your power back for good. Hi, I am your host, Sky Cheyenne, and welcome back once again to Rebuild Reality, where as always we talk about who we really are, why we're here, and how all of this stuff works. So one of the viewers had left a comment and they had a question. Actually, they had three questions, and they broke down into this. One, how do we see our true identity? Two, how do we give ourselves what we want? And three, how do we see through the illusion of separation? Now, of course, each one of those is probably its own video. And this is exactly what I've been talking about. What is our true identity? Who are we? And, how do we give ourselves what we want? How does this work? How does all this stuff work? And how do we see through the illusion of separation? How do we see what's really going on here? So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of take a large swath of the teaching so far and to do kind of a bullet point thing. Because as humans, boy, what are we good at? In one ear, right out the other. We just go right back to it, which is one of the reasons I say that having a practice is it's like kind of everything. Because otherwise we're just going to stay in those same patterns. We're not going to interrupt those and make new patterns. So personally, what I like to do is just several times throughout the day, I remind myself, this is what I had to do. I had to remind myself, nope, this is an illusion. This is not my story anymore. This is my story. So, okay, first off, identity. Who are we? Who are you? Who are you really? You are consciousness. And I know a lot of you out there have probably heard this before, but it's like, so what? I don't know how to relate to that, right? So it really kind of comes down to breaking it all apart and understanding how it all works. And then when you got all the puzzles, pieces there, you can put them together and be like, oh, now I get it, how that can be possible, right? So we understand these things, and we understand that we are consciousness by looking at quantum physics, because it's the whole exploration of all this. As a matter of fact, the founding father, the creator basically of quantum physics, Max Planck, said, I regard matter as derived from consciousness, which of course he was completely right. Einstein also supported this, and he said, concerning matter, we have all been wrong. What we have called matter is energy whose vibration has been lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. True. So as much as your senses are telling you, yeah, this is solid, no, it's actually not. This means that yes, our senses are lying to us. What we think is real isn't real at all, which is why we have such a difficult time functioning here, because things actually work different than how we perceive them as working. That's why life is such a freaking struggle all the time. That's why it upsets us and stuff. So now, of course, it's kind of like a paradox to it all. So now, what is matter made out of? Matter that makes up every single thing. Every single thing you've ever seen or experienced is made of atoms. And what are atoms made out of? Well, atoms are they're subatomic particles that make up atoms, including protons, neutrons, and electrons mostly. The thing is about an atom is that it is 99.99999% empty space. The subatomic particles that make up an atom are teeny little itty bitty things in the middle that you actually have to, look at under an electron scanning microscope. So let's say you do. Okay, we're taking it all apart and we're going to look at an atom that makes up matter. And we're going to look at these little tiny particles that are in the nucleus of an atom, right? So we're looking at it, and basically you're going to begin to see particles like muscles that begin to take on these crystalline forms. Then you're going to begin to see all these particles swaying and pulsing and changing places with each other and doing all this stuff. They're oscillating fields of rhythms is what they find out. They're just these oscillating fields that upon closer look dissolve into nothing. And that is what is at the base of all matter. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But consciousness. So, what is your body? What is everything made out of? It's made out of emptiness and rhythms. The flow, the dance of life that we hear about in so many ancient spiritual texts, right? So there's no objects, there's only a process going on. And this process is like patterns. So this rhythm, this oscillating fields that seem to be matter and dissolve into nothing, they are patterns. And what are patterns? Certainly our thoughts. They're certainly our beliefs. They're a little hamster wheel that we keep going around and we're like, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. But these patterns are our patterns of belief, our patterns of thought, our patterns of imagination. Because what do they say? Like, people think of like your thoughts today are like something over like 95% of the thoughts you had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. The same thoughts, same thing. You wake up and you're like, how do I fix this? You wake up, how do I fix this? You wake up, how do I get out of this? You wake up, how do I get out of this, right? So protons, which is really interesting, that make up the nucleus of the atoms that make up us, constitute mostly ancient, and I love the way I found this written, they constitute the most ancient entities of matter in the universe. In fact, going back to the first seconds of the birth of time and space, of the very birth of the Big Bang, right, story, that's where protons were, that make up the nucleus. So it went from consciousness into this explosion of creation, this explosion of the first, perceptions of something solid, something other, because consciousness is not solid, right? So it's an explosion of imagination. That's what it is. It's a big imagination, right? So it's interesting because consciousness is waves. And you've probably heard about this a lot of times. Consciousness is like a wave. It's like the ocean, right? Well, subatomic particles are exactly the same. They are a wave that is also a particle. A particle, this is one of the paradoxes in quantum physics, is that subatomic particles that make up matter, they're a wave, but they're also a particle. Well, that's because they're a wave of consciousness that is going in and out of the form of particles, of what we perceive as particles. So that's where the two of them actually connect, which is pretty freaking cool to figure that out. So next, how do we give ourselves what it is that we want? Well, by understanding how we're doing it in the first place, by understanding the whole correlation between our thoughts, all of our mind things, which is our thoughts, our beliefs, our expectations, etc. By understanding the correlation between that and this field around us, because the two are connecting. And this is what spirituality has always said, but science is like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't until quantum science came out, quantum physics, that there was this understanding of exactly how that works. So this is why we're going to pull up once again the Copenhagen interpretation, which was put forth in the 1920s by a lot of the original people in quantum physics, including the ever brilliant Niels Bohr. And the Copenhagen interpretation states that particles do not exist in one state. They exist as waves, they're particles, or this, or that, which is like I was just saying. That is, if it's a wave, that's consciousness. If it's a particle, it's come into the perceptible form to the senses of matter. That's the connection. So, particles do not exist in one state, but in all possible states, in all possible locations. The one and only actual subatomic particle that is appearing as multiple particles everywhere in all locations, the one that's inside your head, the one that's making up your phone, the one that's making up me, the one that is 57 billion light years across the universe, is actually the same particle. But it is appearing as multiple things because it's just like the Creator. It's one thing, but it is appearing as everything. And it is only when we choose, when we look at it, that we force it into one thing, one possibility out of an infinite number of possibilities, into one reality out of all the realities it could possibly be. When you look at it, when you observe it, it collapses from everything into the one thing you expect it to be. Just like when you open your front door and you expect to see a certain scene, guess who's making it? You. Because it's what you expect. It's what you assume is going to be there, which is why it's there. And this action, which this whole thing is something that has been an experiment that has been done time and time and time again for over 100 years. And every single time it's been proven to be right, that this is what is actually happening, right? So particles are forced into different observable states every single time. So this is what they call the observer effect, right? That states that the process of observing or judging a particle changes the way that particle behaves. And the thing about these subatomic particles is certainly the electrons that cover the nucleus. They're like this little cloud of energy there. They are electrically charged, right? Well, so are our thoughts. Our thoughts, when we think, when we have a desire, when we have a thought, when we have an assumption, we're sending out an electrical signal, which of course is completely measurable with scientific equipment. You can measure the scientifically produced electrical current from the mind. Well, that's just like a little antenna. It's sending out beep, 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 the signal, right? It's sending out the signal of what it is that it wants. And that is the electric thing that goes out. So the imagination, sending thoughts. Well, magnetics is the other side of it. So we got the electric side of it. We got the magnetics, the push and the pull, the push and the pull. So the magnetic side of it is gratitude, openness, believing, receiving. Yes, bring it on to me. Conviction. Conviction is huge to me in this, because when you're like, yep, that's happening. Yep, that's happening. No fight about it. No fight about it at all. It is happening, This is the receiving mode. So the electric signal from the brain, the thought, the imagination sends, this is what I want you electrons to do. And then you're like, you need to be in the receiving mode. Yep, it's happening. I'm already living here. This is great. It's wonderful. I'm so grateful for it. Whatever it is that is in that open receiving, that yes, it's happening mode. These are the two things. So the thoughts are telling the electrons how to form, what shape to take, which is, of course, based on your beliefs, based on your assumptions. This is how we create our reality. This is the function, So we have created everything that's here. Every single thought, every image that everyone has put out. And people, we do this thing. And when you really start to see it, you realize the phenomenal power of it. That every belief that we have, that this is good for us, that that's bad for us, that we can do this, that we can't do that, was usually thought up by one, maybe a couple of people, and pronounced as the truth. And then everyone believed it. And then we made it true. Like, let's say, for example, someone with a degree or, some kind of certificate, someone that was very believable, because they'd studied it. They did an experiment. Well, and it turned out a certain way. Well, guess what way it turned out? It turned out because of the observer effect. Of course, the way that they actually expected it to. And then they pronounce it to the whole world. This is good for you. This is bad for you. You shouldn't have this. You can only have so much of that, etc., etc. But it's all made up. Everything. Because life inherently has zero meaning to it. We give it all the meaning it has. We're the only ones that are judging things as good or bad or this or that, So this is what makes up everything is that we see, and this is how easy it is. I mean, I've had situations where I remember I was living with someone, they were always like their ears, they were always like, I need more Q-tips, and they were always bothered about their ears, and I'd never had ear problems in my entire life. But after being with them for a few months, I found myself going, oh yeah, maybe and I was like, oh my God, stop. I was literally about to download and accept their belief because they were like, oh, this is a problem. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I never thought about it before, but maybe it is an issue. It's like that easy. This is how we pick up everything that easy, right? So interesting to think about. So this, of course, is something that Abdullah understood, Neville Goddard's teacher, and Neville himself, that we're creating it all. And that's why you hear about how Abdullah would eat anything and everything, drink all the alcohol, the ice cream, the candy, whatever he wanted, never had a single problem with any of it. And Neville was like, what? How are you doing that? But he told him, because if everything is one thing, and everything is scientifically proven to be one thing, one imaginary thing to begin with, that there's nothing at the bottom of it, then how is it possible that anything could possibly hurt you? It is nothing more than a belief. Every single bit of it. And when I started to challenge those beliefs, boy, I started ripping stuff out by the roots, I'll tell you that, So, yeah, absolutely. And when you start seeing things from this new point of view, you realize what the heck is happening here, So how do we once again give things to ourselves? We choose it. Choose what you want. 2, imagine it. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, that's amazing. That would be fantastic. 3, assume it's done. That easy. Yep, it's done. It's natural. It's easy. No forcing. Simple announcement. It's a simple conviction of like, yep, that's what I'm having. That's it. And I know I'm having it because I'm making it up anyway. So of course I can have it. No heavy lifting, no seriousness, no difficulty. We have to understand that between point A and point B, it's nothing more than the unfolding. Like Neville Goddard says, it's a bridge of incidents. It's going to be, sometimes it'll be fast. Sometimes it'll be slow. Sometimes it'll be months and months and months. Maybe it's even a year. You don't know, right? Maybe it's going to be within a week. Maybe it's within 5 minutes. That's not up to us. That's just the perception and stuff. But between whatever happens, between when you ask for it and when you get it, it's just the story. It is nothing more than a play. And you stay in your conviction, no matter what appears, even if it's completely the opposite. Nope, I get what I want, which is exactly what I did before myself. And I've spoken of this once before when I had a lot of difficult things happen to me, homelessness, drug addiction, living in my car in the streets of LA. And I left all of that and I went into the wilderness of the middle of California, up on the central California coast. And, but every day I had these horrible memories for months and months, coming several times a day, that just annihilated me. And one day, one of them came up again and I just like, bam, like the hammer came down and I was like, no, I just crossed the line. No more. Because I really felt like I was going to die. I'm like, I can't emotionally handle it anymore. So much has happened that I cannot take those memories. And I just like smashed it, But But of course, they kept coming up several times a day. Once again, and every time they did, I just said, nope, no. I'm in this beautiful place now. I'm going to be happy. And it took me about 2 to 2.5 weeks of refusing that. No, I will not accept that reality. This is my new reality. I will not accept that old stuff. I'm going to be happy. This is my new reality. And it took that long. And then one day, all those terrible thoughts were gone. I literally never thought about them again. They never came up to haunt me again. And I woke up just incredibly happy. But I had no idea what I'd even done. I'd never even heard of manifestation before in my entire life, and it was just this thing that it wasn't until I looked back many, many years later that I was like, oh my God, I was doing it then and it worked. Standing in that conviction, being like, no, I will not accept that. I don't care what it is. I do not accept it. I am this person now. And that can F off, quite frankly. And thank goodness it did. So the thing about all of this is that when we are like, nope, won't take anything less. Nope, that's mine. Nope, that's mine. Just easy. Not a problem. No big deal. Just nope, I'm in charge now. This is my world. And of course it is, right? And the lovely thing about that is because the universe is, if you want to view it that way, the rest of you will always say yes, right? So if you will put up with things that are like, well, I guess, if you keep doing things and putting up with it and living it, then it's your way of saying, that's okay. I accept that. So until you decide not to accept it anymore, it's not going to change. So good to know, right? But there are not two options in all this, because we think, well, there's two options. There's the option that when I'm doing these processes and techniques and all this stuff, that there is, maybe it will work out, but maybe it won't work out. There's kind of that part of us that's like, how many times have you tried it before, And so there's that kind of me. But when we kind of understand how this is all going, then we begin to understand that there is no opposite to yes. The universe, if you want to think of it like that, the rest of you will always say yes, will always give you anything that you want, because that is how much you are loved, because, well, you're it. you're all of it, right? So humans, we think that there's a yes and there's a no, but no, there is no. There is no non-fulfillment. There is no not. There is no, unavailable to you. There is no non-fulfillment, because it is a non-existence. No does not exist in the universe. That's all human created. The idea of that is all human created, right? Next. And a lot of people are like, well, but what I want has to do with other people, and do I have their right to, what about their free will and all this stuff? Well, this is when we have to know that there are, of course, since everything is infinite, that there are multiple versions of you and multiple versions of this earth where things turn out very differently. In fact, everything that more than you could possibly, obviously, since it's infinite, think of, every version of you having gone down every single road in your life, that version is there. If you can think about it, it exists. And the more you desire it, the more it's calling you, saying, come on and get me. Put this suit on, be this version of you, because the rest of you wants you to live the most amazing version of yourself that has ever existed, ever, that ever will exist. Why wouldn't you be that now? Why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you be the most fantastic, amazing version of yourself that there's ever been? Well, yes, this is the whole point. Now that's exciting. That's worth doing. That is worth being here in this experience for if you don't see anything as limiting you and you're just like, yep, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take that and I'm going to take that, and that door opens, so I'm going through there, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go there, saying yes to all these things, and then you decide, oh yes, no, don't want that, oh yes, I do want that, but you go, and you're like, it's mine, mine, mine. A bit like a Daffy Duck, mine, mine, mine. So there are multiple versions of you and multiple versions of everybody else and multiple versions of this earth where things turn out one way and versions of it where none of that happens at all. We just happen to be in this version now where, oh my God, that sucks, right? Well, there are versions where everything turns out amazing, or it's not even like this at all. Where do you want to live? Who's got the control? You or this? Right? So you have to accept, all of us have to accept that there is a seen part of us and that there is an unseen part of us. That there is you and all the rest of you. Right? And this is the same thing in physics, in science, where we have the Newtonian physics, which drop an apple, it falls. Yep, mine's in 3D. The senses here are like, I understand that. But then there is the quantum physics side of it, which flips everything on its head, and everything acts completely differently than we are used to understanding here. And that's the same as you. That's the other unseen side of you, which of course is all the rest of you, which is most of you, because we are only seeing, like I said, less than 0.1% of reality. So that's why you are not perceiving all of you at all, So we have to understand that this is a co-creation, but we keep trying to drive 100% of the time. We keep trying to control things 100% of the time instead of finally believing, finally trusting, finally letting go of that thing and being like, okay, I'm doing this much of it, but this is all I can do. Because we weren't meant to do the heavy lifting, like I said. We're meant to just imagine it, choose it, imagine it, and assume it. And that's it. All the rest of that stuff gets worked out by the rest of us. We are never meant to do the hard part of it, which is why we keep thinking we're trying to do all of it, which is why it's so freaking difficult, right? So accept that the rest of you is not here in your perception, which is why we have to trust, we have to believe, we have to have faith in all of this, because that's just how it works. And certainly Neville Goddard really kind of understood how this all worked, because as he said, we are all imagination. What you believe is source, what you believe is the creator, what you believe is God is consciousness. It is imagination. That's what it is, which is why your imagination is your place of power, your place of power right here and now, because there's no time and space, there was just now. This is where all the power is, right here and now. So know that, this is a projection. And that's how it's working with the subatomic particles. They're snapping into place according to what we believe, according to what we expect. And when we stand in that place of, nope, it's going to be what I want. It's going to be what I want. My senses are literally lying to me. And I'm just like, nope, needs to change. Picture in the mirror needs to change. Picture around me. Set dressing. Come on. Set dressers. This needs to change. And of course it takes a little bit of what we perceive as time for that to happen, So this is why we have to look at our thoughts, because that's what we're using to create. Our thoughts are imagination. So what do you think about all day long? What you do want or what you don't want? Most of us think, because that's the mind, it thinks of, first of all, worst case scenario. That's going to protect you by thinking of the worst case scenario. No, thinking of the worst case scenario all day long is going to destroy your freaking life. That's what it's going to do, So your attention, your focus is where you are going. That is your steering wheel. And you have to remember that, which is why we need that practice of, okay, hold on, I got to keep reminding myself all day long. I got it written on my hand. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because you'll keep being sucked back into it until you finally gain enough strength where you're like, no, this is my reality. You're like, mind, stop that. That's not true. This is my reality now. Right? So your attention, your focus is the most valuable thing you have. And there's a lot of people that know that. Because why do you think we got social media? Why do you think there's 1,000,000,001 distractions now? Because life didn't used to be like that at all. It's because everyone wants your attention. Because what is your attention? It's energy. This is the new currency. Because whatever and whoever you're focused on, that is where your power is going. And everyone wants your power, right? You can fuel my dream and my life's, work instead of your own. So we got to put our thoughts and take them out of everybody else's story and put them into creating our own. This is so important, because at the end of the day, when we're trying to do all this, when we're working on this, we have to understand that no one else has the purse strings. No one out there is holding the purse strings because we think that there's someone out there, there's something that we got to please, that we got to be good enough that's holding the purse strings like, maybe I'll give it to you. Maybe not. Well, I'm not sure. Have you been good enough? Have you done enough? I don't know. I think you need to beg and plead some more. All right? No, there's no one out there doing that. There is no begging, no pleading, like there is on earth. And we assume that it's like here. It's not like that. It's just literally what we say. Stand in your power, your focus and attention. Bingo. Gets you there, right? Because there's no out there. As John Wheeler, the famous physicist, so famously said, there's no out there. And when you look at quantum physics, this is absolutely true. It's all, if you're looking for anything out there in a technique, in a process, in a guru, in whatever it is, anyone who doesn't point you back to you, doesn't know, or is taking your power knowingly, because it will always and only ever be you. And that's what Seth, who was, of course, famously channeled through Jane Roberts in the I believe she started in the late 1950s, 60s, 70s. I believe she passed in the mid 1980s. So she was channeling for quite a while. In fact, she is the one who Abraham Hicks learned from, who Esther Hicks learned from, how to channel through Seth. And Seth said, the voice that came through Jane Roberts, you sit in the miracle of yourselves and you ask for signs. You are what you're looking for. It's not anything else. There is no other operant power but you. It's just you. Because you're the one thinking the thoughts. You're the one believing the beliefs. You're the one imagining everything. You are the one creating it all. It's all coming from you. That's why you're the source of it all. You are the creator. You are God. You are source. Because it's coming from you. That's why you are the source. You are the creator because you are the one creating it. This is literal. This isn't figurative. This is literal. So when it's like, know ye not ye are gods, well, this is exactly what we're talking about. So in all of this, how to see your true identity, how to understand that. Well, we've spoken about that. How do we give ourselves what we want? We've spoken about that. How do we see through the illusion of separation? By understanding these things, because in so much of quantum physics, it's not about seeing the actual particles, it's seeing the effects. And when we see the effects of what we do, when we get the correlation, then we can get it. But otherwise, are your 3D senses going to pick up on that? No, not really. Not your regular, 3D senses like sight and hearing and taste and all that, but your other senses will. Your intuition, your feeling, the heart of you. The reason you're here right now, the reason you are out there looking to begin with, is because there's a part of you who knows it's got to be real. And you're right, because that's the part of you that really knows, that truly understands all of this. And that's the part of you that's trying to take you home, right? So in all of this, it's really about finally opening your eyes. You are what you're looking for. Finally seeing and accepting your true identity as source, as the source of it all, not the seeker. That's the wrong side of this heads or tails. You are never the seeker. You are the one creating it all. And that is why, and I love this, it always kind of gets me every time. It's almost kind of hard for me not to even cry when I talk about it at the end, near the end of The Wizard of Oz. And I know this is going to be backwards. And I've got this picture and I've had it for many, many years. Because when I saw it, I didn't know what it meant or how it was true, but I knew that it was true. And I knew that one day, just like you, I was going to find out. And at the bottom, very faded here, it says, "You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself." And I hope today has helped you do that. So I am your host, Sky Cheyenne, and thank you for being with me here once again on Rebuild Reality. Thank you to all the wonderful subscribers. I appreciate you all being here, for keeping this whole thing going. Thank you for your wondrous, amazing, gorgeous comments, which I love. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being here with me here on Rebuild Reality. And I am going to see you here next time.